Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Atmanexus. I'm Siddharth, and as always, I'm joined by my dear friend Jude. And it's good to have you back, Jude.
Great to be here, Siddharth. Looking forward to this conversation.
Same here. And Jude, every time we sit down for these conversations, I remind myself of one thing. We are not here because we have all the answers. I feel we are here because we have the courage to ask meaningful questions. So, before we begin, I'd like to say something to everyone listening today. This conversation is not a diagnosis or a medical advice. It's certainly not an attempt to simplify anxiety or depression. It's simply an inquiry. Basically, two friends trying to understand one of the most important questions of our time. We'll share our own experiences basically here, discuss ideas from psychology or neuroscience, and reflect on the wisdom of the scriptures and explore what researchers and clinicians have learned over the years. So, our hope isn't that you agree with everything we say. Our hope is just that this conversation helps you ask kinder questions to yourself. And if you're someone who's living with persistent anxiety or depression, or if those feelings are affecting your work, relationships, sleep, or daily life, consider speaking to a qualified mental health professional. Seeking help is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. So, Jude, I have been thinking about this for, I think, quite a long time. Uh, Everywhere I look, I meet people who appear successful, good careers, good families, good education. Yet, so many quietly admit that they are anxious, exhausted, emotionally overwhelmed. And that makes me wonder, do you think anxiety and depression are becoming more common, or are we simply becoming more honest about talking about them?
I think that they're becoming more common and more prevalent in our society. I think that as the pace of life gets faster and that there are more stress and demands on us as individuals, it's like if you have any system, right, in engineering or in science, if you have a closed system, the more stress you apply to the system, the higher the probability is that something is going to go wrong. That's why systems have things like pressure release valves, right? I know you're a physician of physics. When you put a huge amount of stress on something for a prolonged period of time without working on the system, take a car as an example. If you have a car and you just drive it for years and you never get it serviced, you never change the oil, you never do anything, you just keep putting more fuel in the car, eventually something will go wrong with the car. The brakes will stop working, the tires will run flat, the suspension will break. If you don't look after the system and do work on it to maintain it in good order, something will break. And I think the same thing is happening within humans. And when humans are under stress for a prolonged period of time awareness, without awareness of that stress and changing things to reduce the stress, that stress starts to manifest as physical, mental, and emotional symptoms, very often anxiety and depression. And it's like I've read a lot around this subject area over the last few years. And in the US, 70 to 90% of medical admissions, the root cause of is stress. So stress is taking a huge toll on people's well-being and is the root cause of many people seeking medical help and guidance.
So beautifully explained, and what an example you gave of the car. And basically, I like the paths you touched on. And I feel the courage here is to speak. For a long time, mental health carried a stigma. People were often told to be strong, move on, stop thinking so much. today many people are more willing to talk openly, and that's a positive change. And at the same time, research also suggests that many modern stressors, such as chronic stress, loneliness, disrupted sleep, even financial pressure, can contribute to anxiety and depression in vulnerable individuals.
And it's like, I've experienced anxiety, I've experienced depression, and they're very much, the experience of it is very much real, and it's extremely debilitating when you're in that experience. And I remember when I was at school, I was extremely lonely and anxious for like a period of around 4 years, and I didn't even know what it was at the time. I didn't know it was anxiety that I was experiencing. It was only in hindsight, looking back, I realized what it was.
Even I have suffered from anxiety, and I had my own way of coming out of it. And the experience was quite deep, I would say. So I feel mental health is complex, and it's rarely explained by one single cause. Sometimes I think we have become incredibly skilled at staying connected to the world, but disconnected from ourselves. We know what's trending across the globe, but we don't always know what's happening inside our own minds. And what you said leads me to something I have genuinely been wondering about. Because when people hear the word anxiety, they often immediately think something is wrong with me. But is that always true? Do you think anxiety is always something to fear, or could it sometimes begin as mind's attempt to protect us, even if that protection becomes overactive or unhelpful, Jude?
I think that anxiety is a messenger. Anxiety, I believe, often arises when we're on the wrong path, or when we're living out of alignment with our true selves, or when we're acting purely from the mind and not listening to our heart. I think that anxiety then starts to manifest in the system as a messenger that something's wrong. And in that way, anxiety is an extremely useful tool. I don't know the right language to use, but maybe it's our soul communicating with us. It's trying to get through to us that we're on the wrong path, or that what we're doing is not aligned with our higher purpose.
I liked your perspective. Like, anxiety is a messenger, and it's kind of soul communicating. So, from what we understand in neuroscience, Jude, anxiety itself isn't a mistake. Our brains evolved with systems that help us detect potential threats and respond quickly. And those symptoms are incredibly valuable. The challenge comes when the proactive system stays switched on too often or too intensely, causing distress or interfering with our everyday life. I sometimes think of it like a smoke alarm. Like, when there's a real fire, you're grateful it's there. But if it goes on every time you make a breakfast or something, you don't like that smoke alarm. So you sometimes, and that particular moment, you ask, like, why is it so sensitive? And maybe we can learn something from that. Instead of asking, why am I broken, we might gently ask, what is my mind trying to protect? That's because that question isn't meant to replace treatment or therapy. It's meant to help us become more curious than critical. What's your take on this, Jude?
This conversation is so multidimensional, right? And what I've
Yes.
been sort of seeing through all of this up until this point in the conversation is that maybe it's not a mental health crisis. Maybe it's a crisis of consciousness. All of these problems, or perceived problems, are a result of most people in society not knowing who they are. Because if you, as soon as you identify as awareness, or as consciousness of all experience, that creates separation between you, who you truly are, and the symptoms of anxiety or depression within your body. And I think this is the only actual way to become free of becoming a victim of like symptoms of anxiety, is to understand who you truly are. Because as long as we just try and mitigate the symptoms or treat the symptoms, the underlying cause will just rumble on forever. So, and I've spoke to lots of people about this, I think the problem is a lack of consciousness, not a mental health problem. Because as you said, I totally agree, anxiety is really useful in a whole range of different situations because it's communicating. Whereas chronic anxiety and chronic stress will just wear out the system in the same way as the car example. So I think that, and it's like, as you know, the huge part of meditation is just experiencing, right? Meditation is a practice of being awareness and observing everything without judgment or opinion. As soon as you're able to observe the anxiety within your body, and anxiety is just the word, right? Anxiety is not what anxiety is. As soon as you're able to just observe the state of being within yourself, there is separation between you and the experience. And I think fundamentally that is the only way to become free of it.
So you mean to say like anxiety can sometimes be a proactive response, right?
Yeah. Like I think like the semantics of the language in this is interesting because it's like how you distinguish between anxiety and fear and fight or flight response. I think they're kind of all the same thing that are getting like knitted together. Like anxiety, say a tiger walked into the room where you are now, for you to feel some fear, some anxiety will give you a massive boost of adrenaline and cortisol, which may allow you to escape the tiger. In that way, feeling fear and or anxiety is very useful in that situation. But you sitting in your apartment feeling anxious 12 hours a day because you don't know how you're going to make money in 20 years' time is completely stupid. That's the difference, right? And I think that's the distinguishment we need to make between anxiety as an immediate survival mechanism and anxiety worrying about the future, which most of the time never happens.
Right. So like if anxiety like can sometimes begin as a proactive response, then why does it become so overwhelming for some people, and where does depression fit into the story? I think this is the part where the conversation becomes more interesting.
To be honest, the first thing I'm going to say is I don't know. And the answer I give you now is my best guess made upon my lived experiences and living with other people who have experienced extreme anxiety and depression. But I've been around people who have experienced depression a lot in my life, both in family and in a work capacity. And I think anxiety and depression are such interesting things, and that firstly, they're nothing to be scared of, and they're not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just removing the duality around anxiety and depression is so powerful and empowering in and of itself. Because a lot of the time, if the person believes that they are broken because they are anxious or depressed, or have been diagnosed as anxious or depressed, if that person believes that that is really bad and that they are broken, just that belief that this is really negative and that I'm a broken person, I think that in itself is very destructive.
So like when someone says I am anxious, do you think they're always reacting to what's happening today?
What I would say to that person is, you are not anxious, you are experiencing anxiety within your body. It's the identification which causes the problem.
That's how it should be. Like we are just experiencing that. We are not that, as we discussed earlier also. And Jude, modern psychology tells us that our early experiences can shape how we respond to stress later in life. Not everyone with difficult childhood experiences anxiety or depression, and not everyone with anxiety or depression has experienced trauma. So human beings are quite complex, but our experiences do matter. Like
Yeah.
a child who grows up constantly criticized may become an adult who feels that every mistake is a disaster, and someone who grows up in an unpredictable environment may become exceptionally alert to signs of danger. The nervous system learns, and the beautiful thing is it can also learn again. Like one experience, it doesn't make things constant, and that's one of the reasons therapies, supportive relationships, healthy habits can make a meaningful difference. The past may shape us, it doesn't have to define us. And that naturally, it makes me think about like if our experiences, they shape us, then what happens when we spend years pretending we are fine? Like, do you think we have become a society that's comfortable talking about success but uncomfortable talking about emotional pain?
Yes, very, very much. I think emotional pain makes many people very uncomfortable. And I think you make a wonderful point about how malleable we are as beings, how our body and mind become a byproduct of our lived experiences and our conditioning. And if you've been conditioned one way, like if your conditioning can make you sick, can different conditioning make you healthy?
Hmm. Conditioning again.
There's an amazing guy, Joe Dispenza. You may be familiar with his work. He's helped hundreds of thousands of people. And a really common phrase which he says, it has now been proven in modern science, right, that our thoughts can make us sick. But if our thoughts can make us sick, can our thoughts also make us healthy?
Like, even when we say, I'm not okay, that is also strength, I feel.
That takes a lot of strength. It takes, especially probably for men, it takes huge strength to express vulnerability and weakness, and that they are experiencing challenging emotions.
Like once I read something from psychologist Carl Rogers. Like he wrote, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just the way I am, and then I can change. And I feel it's quite freeing when you read this, because acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means starting from reality instead of denial.
Yes, brilliant. And then it also shows that if you can accept yourself, you no longer see yourself as broken. You just see yourself as you are.
So, what do you feel anxiety and depression? What are they actually trying to tell us, or what do you think they are inviting to pay attention to?
I think they arise when your life is out of balance, out of harmony. I think that when you are living out of harmony, whether that be in your work, in your close relationships, in the way you are living your life, if that is out of harmony and out of balance, anxiety and depression are almost guaranteed to arise. There's a message to help you come closer to balance and harmony. And in that way, anxiety and depression are a blessing.
I'm really enjoying this conversation, not because we have found some answers, but because we are actually allowing ourselves to ask honest questions, and with the inquiries getting deeper, and maybe that's where understanding begins. We often ask, how do I stop feeling this? But maybe we should ask, how do I stop facing this alone? Because I feel healing usually begins the moment someone feels genuinely seen. Do you somewhere agree with me on this, or you feel healing begins alone and we can heal ourselves alone?
I think both are possible, but healing is certainly easier and more enjoyable when you are supported and feel seen by others. Absolutely.
So, if someone listening to us today feels overwhelmed or they are quietly struggling, what would you want them to hear?
You are not alone, and this too shall pass. And I think, like, the study of spirituality, the universe, the nature of reality is so important for the context of this conversation, because when you like study the universe and you realize that everything is in a constant state of flux in every moment, the cells within your body are changing as you listen to this conversation. Your mental psychological programming is being changed by listening to this conversation. You are in constant relationship with the air all around you. With every breath that you take, your body, or the body, is in relationship with the air all around you, every single breath. And by being in relationship with the air, you are also in relationship with the trees and the plants in your environment. And I kind of see it as like anxiety and depression are like energy circulating within us, like in a way that we can't ignore. They're so loud that we can't ignore. Like, I think most of the time, before anxiety gets really bad, we've had low-level anxiety, often for a short period of time, and it builds up, it increases, right? But we've ignored it for long enough until eventually it becomes what is experienced as quite severe anxiety. So I think that having an understanding that nothing is fixed, including you, including your internal state of being, including your identity, your thoughts, nothing about you is fixed in any way. And once you start to feel that and live that, you realize that your internal state of being is not fixed either. So you may feel anxious today. That does not mean you're going to feel anxious tomorrow. But if you believe that you're going to feel anxious and terrible tomorrow, chances are you probably are going to feel anxious and terrible tomorrow, because you've almost convinced yourself that you are before it happens. And like, we both know the power of the mind, how powerful the mind is, and how powerful our self-talk is.
Yes. And I feel you're not broken because you're anxious or you're depressed, because we all are humans. So it's quite normal to experience such feelings. So to everybody who's listening, please don't wait until you are at your breaking point. Just feel free to talk to someone you trust. Speak to a psychologist, psychiatrist, or a friend. And if your symptoms are persistent, like they are interfering with your daily life, then asking for help is not giving up. It's choosing not to suffer in silence.
It actually could be seen as the start of a new beginning.
Definitely. And after everything we explored today, Jude, what does healing actually look like? Like, is healing the complete absence of anxiety and depression, or is it something much deeper, according to you?
I think that the journey of healing is the journey from wherever we are in this moment to a state of internal peace and contentment that we experience more and more of the time. Like healing, I don't think healing has a finish line. I don't think it's not something that you can buy, or something that you can go to, say, 12 psychotherapy sessions and you're going to be healed. I don't think it works like that, because as your awareness deepens, you start to see things that you couldn't previously see. And in a way, like in the way I look at it, it's the most beautiful journey imaginable. It's like a flower opening slowly over time, and it ebbs and flows. It will pulsate. It will not be easy at times. Sometimes you may have to take one step back to take two steps forwards. Healing is a journey and an evolution, and it is not something to approach with the end in mind. is the journey is the destination. I think.
So beautifully said. Journey is the destination. Like, like for me, healing isn't becoming fearless. Healing is learning that fear doesn't have to make every decision for us. Like, healing isn't pretending we are always happy. It is allowing ourselves to feel the full range of human emotions without believing that one difficult day defines our entire life. It's about coming home to ourselves. When I was reading Bhagavad Gita, there was a very beautiful line, a shloka written like, let a person lift oneself by oneself. Let one not degrade oneself. For the self alone is one's friend, and the self alone is one's enemy. We should always uplift oneself and by ourselves only. We should not wait like somebody else will come. In every situation, uplifting the self is very important. And I don't hear this as a message to struggle alone. I hear it as an invitation to become kinder to ourselves. Sometimes becoming our own friend means accepting professional help, and sometimes it simply means admitting you are not okay. So, my dear friends, coming to the end of this conversation, I would request Jude to conclude this whole thing into few words. Like, what would you like to convey?
Wow, Siddharth, you ask big questions. Big questions. I would say, don't be scared of anxiety and depression, and listen to them. Listen to the messages that they're trying to convey to you. They're trying to teach you something. Nature, one of the laws of the universe, nature does not waste energy. There is a reason you are experiencing these symptoms within your body and mind. It is not happening for no reason. It is not happening to you. Maybe it is happening for you. And maybe it's the universe trying to tell you something. And I would say there is no shame in seeking help and guidance and support from others. We are all stronger together. And it's like, I view it very practically. If I wanted to become a great chef, I would go and spend lots of time with people that are really good at cooking, because I would want to get good at cooking. Or if I wanted to become a great personal trainer, these are just examples I'm making up. If I wanted to become a personal trainer, I'd go and spend time around really good personal trainers, and I'd watch lots of YouTube videos on it, and I would learn and I would practice. The same way, if I wanted to become a mechanic, I would go and get a job in a garage and learn from people that work in a garage and that have worked with cars for decades how to work with cars. If I want to learn how to go from having internal chaos, which you could label as anxiety and depression, if I say I'm anxious right now and I want to be peaceful, I would try and surround myself with people that are peaceful. Or I would consume information, be it podcasts, books, YouTube videos, on the related field to what I would like to achieve. And just doing that starts to reprogram your psyche. It's like, if I wanted to go from being anxious to peaceful, I would be proactive in my approach to achieving that. I would not just hope that it happens. I would be proactive in making different choices in order for my life to change. Be that seeking the help of a psychotherapist, be it taking up yoga classes or attending meditation classes or watching YouTube videos which explain how the psyche works and what the ego is. These are the sorts of things that I would be doing. So I want to finish that with saying, nothing is fixed in the universe, and you are part of the universe. Therefore, your state of being is not fixed. The way you feel today is not how you're guaranteed to feel tomorrow. How you feel today, you could have a completely different life and a completely different internal state of being in a year's time from today. But the only person who can truly change you is you. Even when you go and seek guidance and support from other people, they are just helping you change your relationship with yourself. They haven't got a magic pill or a magic bullet or inject you with something which is going to transform your whole life. It doesn't work like that. The only person who can change your life in this situation is you. So be proactive and don't be scared to seek help, support, and guidance.
You've covered everything so beautifully summed up, and so many takeaways. Like, the only thing constant is change itself, and the ways to deal with it. I'm completely awestruck by it. So before we say goodbye, I would like to leave everyone with one final thought. Maybe anxiety isn't the end of your story. Maybe depression isn't your identity. Maybe this chapter, however painful it feels, is only one chapter, not the whole book. You are more than your thoughts, more than your fears or your diagnosis. Your worth has never depended on how productive you are, how successful you are. If your mind feels heavy today, don't carry it alone. Just reach out. Let someone sit beside you, because healing often begins long before the pain disappears. It begins the moment someone says, I am here, and someone else replies, thank you, I needed that. So, thank you, my dear friend Jude. These conversations always remind me that understanding another human being is one of the greatest expressions of compassion. And to everyone listening, if this conversation touched you somewhere, don't just share the episode, start a conversation. Call your parents, check on a friend, ask your child how they are doing, ask your partner how they are really feeling. And when they answer, don't rush to fix them. Just be present. Sometimes presence heals more than a perfect advice. Thank you for spending the time with us. I'm Siddharth, and this is Atmanexus.